25-year-old Micah Xavier Johnson targeted and ambushed a group of police officers in Dallas, Texas, shooting and killing 5 officers and injuring 9 others. 2 civilians were also wounded. The shooting happened at the end of a protest against the police killings of Alton Sterling in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and Philando Castile in Falcon Heights, Minnesota, which had occurred in the preceding days. The shooting was the deadliest incident for U.S. law enforcement since the September 11, 2001 attacks. It was the second deadliest targeted attack of U.S. law enforcement officers in history, and the largest since the Young Brothers massacre of 1932.
John Manowitz of Target Master in Garland has looked at a photo of the long gun and believes it's an AK-74 or Sega.
What actually happened? A protest was organized in Dallas by the Next Generation Action Network in response to the killings of 2 men, Alton Sterling and Philando Castile, by police officers in Louisiana and Minnesota, respectively, days before. The Dallas protest was one of several held across the United States on the night of July 7th. Around 800 protesters were involved, and around 100 police officers were assigned to monitor the event, some wearing gas masks, bulletproof vests, and fatigues, according to Dallas Police Chief David Brown. Most of the events happened in the streets and buildings around El Centro College, which forms a city block composed of multiple buildings. Around 8:58 p.m. Johnson, an Army Reserve veteran, was angry over police shootings of black men, parked his SUV sideways on Lamar Street, in front of the east entrance to the college, at Building A, and left the vehicle hazard lights blinking. At the time, the street had been cleared out in anticipation of the protest. Taking cover at street level, he began shooting at groups of police and protesters who were gathered on Main Street. Johnson was believed to have talked to 3 of the officers he shot before he first opened fire. 3 officers were killed in the initial gunfire, while at least 3 others and a civilian were injured. 11 officers fired back. During the shooting, officers, unaware where the shots were coming from, scrambled to block intersections and were exposed to gunfire as a result. Immediately afterwards, Johnson made his way north on Lamar Street, encountering Officer Brent Thompson along the way. A civilian recorded video of the encounter from his hotel balcony on Lamar Street. Johnson, now injured during the firefight, attempted to enter the Lamar Street entrance of the college by shooting out the glass door, but was unable to make his way in. He wounded 2 campus police officers who were near the doorway inside the building. Corporal Brian Shaw was shot in the stomach underneath his vest, while Officer John Abbott was hit by flying glass in the legs. Johnson then made his way to Elm Street, where he shot out another glass door and entered the college unseen. He then made his way to Building B. Hearing the shattering glass, one of the injured campus officers, Corporal Shaw, made his way through the building and discovered a trail of blood leading to a stairwell. Accompanied by another police officer, Shaw entered the stairwell and was met with a hail of gunfire coming from above. Unable to see Johnson, he held his fire and retreated with the other officer. Johnson made his way along a mezzanine between the school's 2nd floor dining area and 3rd floor library. Officers began entering the college, sealing escape routes from the building and evacuating students and teachers in the building, including those on a floor above Johnson. He was in an area filled with offices and the school's computer servers, with only 2 doors leading to where he was positioned, and a hallway about 30 feet long separating him from SWAT members. At least 200 gunshots were believed to have been fired by Johnson and SWAT officers in that area during the standoff.
I know you're prepared for this! Obviously this isn't gonna end well.
Officers corner the shooter at the end of a narrow hallway.
I got fragments coming through.
Now, the only thing that protected us is we had a wall to our immediate right.
Yep, we're taking rounds to the wall.
But it's nothing but sheetrock, and as you know.
A camera video released in July 2021 pursuant to an open records request shows Sergeant Larry Gordon, a SWAT negotiator at the time, and other officers attempting for several hours to negotiate with Johnson.
Officers interviewed by WFAA later reported that they had sought to negotiate with Johnson because he was too heavily armed for the officers to risk charging him, but that they were under pressure and could not wait indefinitely because Johnson could pop out from behind a corner at any time to shoot an officer. Johnson shouted, "Black supremacy, black liberation," and began firing on police officers when they initially cornered him in the hallway.
He was very lucid, seemed to be very sane, and very in control.
I told you, X, I got control over here. I'm trying to make you understand. I got control. X, I'm not bullshitting you, man. I hadn't bullshitted you in 45 minutes.
And he told me he wasn't leaving. He was going to die there.
Micah told them he'd planted bombs. He taunted officers to come down the hall.
Johnson said that he had acted alone and was not part of any group. According to Chief Brown, Johnson appeared delusional during his standoff. "We had negotiated with him for about 2 hours, and he just basically lied to us, playing games, laughing at us, singing, asking how many did he get and that he wanted to kill some more." However, Gordon indicated in an interview that the shooter wasn't delusional, and that he was very lucid, seemed to be very sane and very in control. After several hours of negotiations, police determined that Johnson could not be persuaded to surrender and that they could not wait him out any longer because he might charge officers in the narrow hallway at any moment, as he had done several times earlier. Senior Corporal Jeremy Borkart and others ultimately arrived at the idea to use a bomb disposal remote control vehicle armed with about 1 pound of C4 explosive.
Never before done in American policing.
Just gonna blow some sheetrock, ceiling tiles. We're gonna be able to see for a bit.
SWAT team member Jeremy Borchard is tasked with carrying out the plan. Body cam video shows the robot coming up the stairs. Borchard used about 1 pound of C4 explosives. He then used a remote to drive it down the hall.
Then as I
The plan was to move the robot to a point against a wall facing Johnson and then detonate the explosives. The device exploded as intended at approximately 2:30 a.m., killing Johnson immediately.
Down in front of the thing. So what I saw and what I think was happening is he was anticipating an assault coming behind the robot. So the sergeant had got on the radio and started my countdown. I hit the button and nothing happened. Just quiet. I'm like, ah. So we were losing signal because of where it was. So luckily they passed the initiator to my secondary, and he grabbed it, and right as I pushed the third time, he pushed the button on the secondary, and boom.
It's now about 1:30 a.m. This is the aftermath. A rifle and 2 handguns lay near the body, and more ammunition nearby.
It was the first time that explosives strapped to a robot had been used in American domestic law enforcement. In total, all of these shootings, 5 officers were killed, 9 officers and 2 civilians were injured.
Some for battery on a police officer. 9 guns were seized as personal property during the arrests. Most of the protesters were from Louisiana, but DeRay McKesson, an activist with the group Black Lives Matter, is from Baltimore.
City police, you're under arrest.
What? It's crime. He was streaming live on his phone as he was arrested for standing in the roadway. Colonel Mike Edmondson heads the Louisiana State Police.
What is captured is just that moment. What's not captured is the moments before that. Yes, it's live, yes, it's real time, and yes, we believe the public has a right to know, but let's let them have the right to know everything.
The day after Sterling's death, Louisiana's Governor John Bell Edwards called for a federal investigation. That decision has been credited with helping to maintain peace.
I wonder if you ever had a moment where you were worried this might turn into a Ferguson or a Baltimore.
Now let's talk about who Johnson really is. Micah Xavier Johnson was raised in Mesquite, Texas. He once described his childhood as stressful during a VA visit on August 15, 2014, but further details were redacted on the visit report. When he was 4, his parents divorced. Johnson transferred into John Horn High School when he was 17 and participated in its Junior Reserve Officers Training Corps program, according to the Mesquite Independent School District. He struggled academically, graduating in 2009 with a 1.98 grade point average and a ranking of 430 out of 453 students in his class. Investigators believed that Johnson had access to El Centro College through his enrollment at Richland, citing his pre-planned and coordinated movements throughout Building B immediately after high school. Johnson enlisted in the U.S. Army Reserve and served from March 2009 to April 2015. He completed basic training, which required qualification on handling of an M16 rifle or M4 carbine, basic rifles for U.S. military personnel.
And we were always joking and laughing. We were kind of similar in high school. Our group was like the outcast. So, you know, I was a skateboarder, I played guitar, I was in band, and our other friends were in choir, and he was in ROTC, so we all naturally gravitated towards each other, you know. He was really outgoing and funny. You couldn't go a day without him making you laugh at least twice a day.
So many people talk about these lone gunmen as loners, people who didn't have any friends. You're saying that's not...
According to Justin Garner, a high school friend and classmate who later served alongside Johnson in the same unit, Johnson lacked proficiency in certain required technical skills, such as marksmanship. Chief Brown said that Johnson, who was black, was upset about recent police shootings of black men and stated he wanted to kill white people, especially white officers. A friend and former co-worker of Johnson's described him as always being distrustful of the police. Brown said that Johnson had told police negotiators that he was upset about Black Lives Matter. Police said they had found no direct ties between Johnson and Black Lives Matter protesters. In the aftermath, El Centro College cancelled all classes on July 8. Police barricaded the perimeter and began canvassing the crime scene. The explosion that killed Johnson also destroyed the school's servers, further delaying reopening. The school partially reopened on July 20, with staff returning that day and students on the following day. Buildings A, B, and C remained closed pending the FBI investigation. A Reflect and Renew ceremony dedicated to demonstrating citywide efforts to unify Dallas was held at the college on July 27. Students and staff, along with city and community officials, were in attendance. Chief Brown said that police efforts to identify the gunman were made more difficult by the presence of up to 30 civilians openly carrying rifles during the protest, which is legal in Texas. Brown said, "We're trying as best we can as a law enforcement community to make it work so that citizens can express their Second Amendment rights. But it's increasingly challenging when people have AR-15s slung over their shoulder and they're in a crowd. We don't know who the good guy is versus the bad guy when everyone starts shooting." In an interview after the shooting, Dallas Mayor Mike Rawlings said that he supported changing state law to restrict the public carrying of rifles and shotguns so that the police could distinguish between suspects and civilians more easily during crises. After the shootings at Dallas, Louisiana, and Minnesota, the Bahamian government issued a travel advisory telling citizens to use caution when traveling to the U.S. due to racial tensions.
That they're being pretty tight-lipped at this point, and we are looking at them as suspects and really just objects that we're talking to. We don't know anything more at this point, and we're going to do a thorough investigation to make sure we get to the bottom of it.
So you say they're being pretty tight-lipped right now. No indication about their motivations?
Specifically advised that young men use extreme caution when interacting with police and to be non-confrontational and cooperative. So, this case was interesting, one to follow. But for now that's all. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe and hit the notification bell. Thanks for watching. This is CrimeCrypt. Till then, signing out.